Okay, for site project D, once you open the file, this is what you're going to see um, for this final project. And I'm not going to go through every single little step. This is just going to be a brief overview on what's expected. I will go through a few steps on a few things that I would want you to do, but the rest of the design is really going to be on your own. Okay. So I will tell you that as far as the site, I guess I'll go ahead and go to this drawing where I've done a little bit of the work already. As far as the site, the existing terrain. So what's happening here is the site is actually naturally draining in this direction. So all the contours, if we look at the elevations, everything's naturally draining this way. So that's what the design is going to be. We're going to have to get the site to drain out of the parking lot out into this little area here. This thing here is called a flume, Flume, flume. So we're going to get everything to drain out to that flume from the driveways, the parking area, the buildings, all the way to this corner. Okay. There is going to be a little bit of a high point in here that we do need to address, and that's where I will make a demonstration on this video to show you how to create that high point. Because what's happening is that since everything's kind of draining in this direction anyways, we really don't want runoff from the roadway to drain here. So I'll show you how to create what's called a high point, so that naturally we'll keep the water to drain away from the high point we're going to create is going to be at the property line. So water will drain here back to the roadway and then from the property line back into our site. So I will show you a demonstration on this um, video series so I can show you how to do that one. But other than that, that's pretty much what we're going to be doing. As far as the criteria, I'm mentioning 5% maximum, 0.5% minimum. Once again, just like we did on the site project C, we all the areas in the parking area need to be no more than 5% and no less than 0.5% in the way water flows. So, like here in front of these buildings, for example, water doesn't flow um, across the building. So, don't forget that we do have to have the 2% of the sidewalk, just like we did in Site Project C. So, really, the elevation at this point and the elevation here would actually be the same. From here this way, it depends on what you want to do. It is going to be part of your design, but at least we have the 2% of the sidewalk. So we will have this it's going to be basically flat along the sidewalk, along the front of the building. And that's really going to be in all cases in front of the building. So water won't be running this way per se. It's actually going to be running away from the building in all cases. Just like here, it's going to be running away from the building. Here, we basically do need to be flat, the same elevation from here to here. So somehow we need to get the water to drain this way, and same thing with this building here. So that's going to be your design. How are you going to do this? There's so many ways of doing this. I really need you to experiment and try it. And more than likely, you will do it one way. It might not work. You might have to adjust it, and you might have to adjust that again. So it's a process. The design process is not very easy. Usually, you don't get it done on the first try. Usually, it takes a couple of tries. Okay. So those are the things that we need to do here. Once again, 0.5% minimum in the parking area, no more than 5% maximum. There's another set of criteria that I'm mentioning on the description of the project, where it's talking about landscape areas. What is considered landscape? It's anywhere where there is no pavement and there is no building or well, really just pavement, building, and sidewalks. This area here, if you can kind of imagine between buildings in a real life project, you can consider that as landscaping. What is landscaping? Trees, grass, shrubs, desert rock, things like that. So in those areas, we're actually allowed to slope quite a bit more. Remember, I mentioned in these areas it can't be more than 5%, and no less than 0.5%. But in these areas, it can be no more than 5%. In the landscape areas, we can actually grade up to a 33% grade, which is quite a bit. If you do the math, it's actually a 3-to-1 slope, kind of like how when we daylight these areas, which I am expecting you guys to daylight and create a bench on these areas. I do expect you guys to daylight these just like we did on Site Project C at a 3-to-1 slope. So that 3-to-1 slope is actually allowed also within the landscape areas. Now, it doesn't have to be the 3-to-1. It just means that we can go up to a 3-to-1 if we need to. We can actually slope it quite a bit, and I think you will in some cases. You're going to have to be able to get this design to work properly, because if you consider the 3D geometry of it, these areas need to be sloping so that we get water to drain out to this corner on the flume, yet the building needs to be flat. So because of that, that's what I'm saying. I'm thinking a lot of these areas are going to be a little bit more extreme. Obviously, they will have to be more than the 5%, but I think it's going to be closer to the 33% or a 3-to-1 slope, however you want to consider that. Okay. So that's really the only explanation I'm going to give you as far as the project. Like I said, the existing ground surface, I didn't show you how to create it. You are going to create it from this information here. Is how you're going to create the existing ground surface. Once again, just like Site Project C. And once you're done with that, you really don't need these items anymore. So you can actually take the time to freeze the DTM points layer and the DTM break lines layer on your final drawing. Because on your final drawing, we really don't need to see that. We just need to see the existing ground surface. You don't need to label the surface, just like we did on Site Project C, which is why I'm putting that. You can refer back to that playlist for Site Project C to kind of remind you on how to do that. So I'm going to create another video right now on how to do that high point that I'm talking about on on this entrance with feature lines. So I'm going to make that in a separate video that I'm going to include. But other than that, you're going to be pretty much on your own. You're going to be creating these um, the site. It's going to be your own design. I will give you a few hints. I will tell you that the site will fit on the 24 by 36 title block, and it will fit on a 1 to 20 scale. Now, as far as the 1 to 20 scale, the 1 to 20 scale will, it's not going to completely fit the site if you make the viewport all the way to the edges of the title block, but it's enough. It's enough. I think you know there might be a little bit of grading that gets cut off over here, but that's okay. I think a 1 to 20 scale will be adequate for this. So I'm going to create, like I said, some other videos. One of them is to show you how to do the high point grading here at the driveway entrance, and then I'm going to make you another video on show you how to bring in the style, how to import a style from another project, because since we need spot elevations, those spot elevations actually don't exist on this project. So remember how on Site Project C we created the proposed ground spot elevation. So it doesn't exist in here, but there's actually a way to import it from another project. So I'm going to show you how to do that. There's no reason to recreate the style because it already exists and it works on another project. I'll show you on another separate video how to import those styles. Other than that, that's pretty much what the expectation is for this project. It is your final project, and just make sure you do everything we need to do. Oh, one last thing I will mention, because of the fact that this site is actually sloping fairly dramatically compared to our 5% maximum, we are going to have quite a bit of fill. This whole area, really most of the site, will be a lot of fill, meaning this area too, once you daylight the edge of the bench, I will tell you, you're going to have some pretty big slopes. So if and when you have some pretty big slopes, that's going to be okay. It's going to be understood, okay? Now, another thing too is those slopes, when you put the contours, more than likely might stretch out of the property line. Typically, we don't do that. You can't really do that in real life unless you have permission from the property owner adjacent to you or whatever the case may be. Or maybe you own the two properties here or your clients, whatever, however you want to consider that. So that's typically not usually done, but just to let you know that that's more than likely going to happen considering the 5% grade on this project, maximum grade on this project, okay? So again, next video will show you how to create the feature lines here at the front. And then the next video besides that will be the spot elevations and a few other items to discuss for this final project. And that should be it. The rest of it, you'll be doing it on your own, again, using the techniques you learned on Site Project C. Best of luck to you.